Hello, race fans. Welcome to a new edition of the EKN Debrief. It is episode number 133, Tuesday, July the 30th, 2024. My name is Rob Howden. I will be joined, as always, by David Cole as we debrief the final round of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour for 2024, the traditional finish of the SummerNationals at Newcastle Motorsports Park, taking place over this past week. And it was some exciting racing for sure. Championships were wild. Lots to unpack here throughout this edition of the Debrief. This show is presented today by Skip Barber Racing School. Are you looking for the next step in racing? Go from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Racing School. Skip Barber alumni are champions in every motorsports series, including Formula One, NASCAR, IMSA, and IndyCar. Get behind the wheel of a Skip Barber Formula car that features a 160 horsepower turbocharged engine. Our highly structured and competitive Skip Barber Formula Race Series is the perfect platform to start your career so you can fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. With equalized race cars and a focus on driver development, your driving skills will determine if you end up in victory lane. Learn more about the Skip Barber Racing School at skipbarber.com or call 866-932-1949. All right, David, I had a long day of travel yesterday, as you driving back home from Newcastle, Indiana, the final round of this year's Superkarts USA Pro Tour, the event July 26, 27, 28. Lots to unpack for round 5 and 6 of the 6-round championship.
Yeah, especially being the series finale, the 10th edition or 15th edition of the SummerNationals, the 10th time being at Newcastle Motorsports Park. You got the finale for the Pro Show, so a brand new program introduced this year. Yeah. Something it was brand new to you, and again, just 2 rounds of racing for the semi-pro category, so it made for an interesting weekend. We had the threat of rain on Sunday all day. We had a little bit of sprinkles that didn't really disrupt the action, but gave it a different element in terms of a little bit of dampness going down. But for the no rain tires were used on the weekend, so that was right. Good. A lot of drama, again, that's what you get with a series finale, and especially in Superkarts USA competition.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You mentioned the rain. I think we were all kind of bracing for it. We were literally telling people in the paddock, hey, get ready, it could be big. We were looking at the radar, and it seemed like there was a big, huge kind of line of green coming across. It just never really happened, right? It was, like you said, a little sprinkle here and there. That was about it. But it did, a couple of the categories, I think it might have moistened the track a little bit. For the most part, as you said, we did not go to rains at all. So key to that, we did have some great racing throughout the weekend. Let's have a look at the by the numbers right now as we cap off our initial segment here of this edition of the Debrief. Actually, pretty solid total for the finale and a pretty good average, David, throughout the entire year. 247 at Orlando, 210 at Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. And I think we rolled with, was it 221 we talked about in the outlap, that the preview podcast? They ended up with almost 10 walk-ups.
Correct. Yeah, we were about at that 220 mark. I think it was maybe, like you said, 221. And got some walk-ups into the weekend. So it got us to that 230 mark. So only 17 below Orlando and 20 above what we had in Ohio. So pretty consistent numbers across the board. Again, when you look at the numbers per category, there isn't a big drop anywhere. It was kind of like an up and down or a down and up, depending on the category. But overall, pretty solid and consistent 3 rounds of racing.
Yeah, 24 in micro, 31 in mini Swift, so very good numbers there. Right around that, we were 20 in X30 Junior. The high water mark was 21 at the opener. Similar to KA 100 Junior, more at Newcastle than there were at in Cincinnati at 44. Season high totals for Master Shifter up to 13 in Master, and Pro Shifter with 2 walk-ups, 35 in total, which was just awesome. And then again, the KA100 Seniors, very similar at 38, only 2 down from the opener. Same goes for Pro X30, which had 25, but it was 27, 24, 25, right, David? So like you said, no real drop-offs in any of the categories. A number of them, they get a little bit of a step up from Cincinnati as well.
Yeah, and again, it's the month of June when we were there in Cincinnati, and it's just kind of a hit or miss, I think, with that month and the facility. It's still kind of brand new for a lot of people. And Orlando, you get the Florida and international bump when you go down there. In Newcastle, you get a little bit of bump because it is the middle of summer and there's nothing. There's no school. Kids don't have to be back home right away, and so it's the opportunity for a lot of people to use that as kind of their big summer race. And yeah, so I mean, you look. But again, really what it boils down to is the big numbers I think we had in shifter competition. Because again, a couple of years ago, we were questioning what are we going to need to do, and it looks like moving over to the KZ platform has certainly helped. It's put us on track with the rest of the world. It's the same engine package used all over the world for shifter kart racing, and people love shifter kart racing. I mean, that is what Superkarts USA is, and to be able to have nearly 50 carts, shifter carts on the weekend, it kind of brings you back to the old school days of the S1 and S2 and S4 programs when we had nearly 100 shifter carts on a weekend. So it's building back towards that. Hopefully we're going to get more master shifter numbers. The increase to 13 help. I think some of those drivers that are at that 28, 29, and 30 range are kind of looking at this as saying, maybe this is where I need to go. We saw one driver do that. He's 35, but it was his first time at the SCUSA Pro Tour in the master shifter class. So again, getting more of those, the 30-year-olds involved, I think it certainly is going to help with the master shifter category.
We saw that many years ago when some of the bigger drivers that were part of the S1 category, that kind of that super pro days where they kind of waited and didn't want to jump into the masters class, the G1 class at the time. Finally, when a bunch of them fell, we started seeing all these great drivers come in and again had that big swell. So let's hope that that's the way, that there's a number of the drivers that are waiting to hit that 30 mark or might be at the 31, 32 and have kind of hesitated to make that move into master shifter. And we see that happen because again, 230 entries to cap off the Pro Tour season at Newcastle. Again, anytime we say you're over 200, that's a solid number. And 230 with the big numbers in the Master and Pro Shifter, I think, made all told the number side of the event a strong one for sure. All right, we'll go to our first break, folks. When we get back, lots to talk about. We got the Paddock Pass. We won't dive right into the race report yet. The Paddock Pass, which is presented by Briggs Racing, will be up next. Ready to step up your game? Joining the Rawlison Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, SummerNationals winners, and Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. We work with all age groups and are focused on developing those cadet and junior drivers who are ready to take the next step in their racing program. Rawlison Performance Group has set a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in IAME competition. We have the largest OTK inventory that follows our race team, providing trackside parts at all the major events in North America. RPG also offers multilingual support with French, Spanish, and Portuguese-speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlison Performance Group. We race to win. Parolin is among the winningest brands in the USA and around the world. The Parolin Le Mans full-size chassis for junior and senior classes and the Parolin Opportunity model for cadet divisions have earned success weekend after weekend at all the major championships and events in both the USA and throughout Europe. The Parolin chassis lineup also includes the Invader shifter, along with the Daytona 4-cycle chassis and the Delfino Kid Kart. Karters can head to the ParolinUSA.com website where the entire chassis line and parts are available to you, with shipping available all across North America. Parolin USA partners with several companies and race teams across the country to provide a strong dealer network to represent the brand locally and at the national level to support drivers throughout North America. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. Welcome back to this edition of the EKN Debrief, episode, what did I say, number 133. Wow, we've done a few of these, David. 133. Into the paddock pass right now, brought to you by Briggs Racing. Briggs & Stratton is powering Operation Grassroots around the world. No other engine manufacturer is getting new and returning drivers to the kart track like the Briggs 206. The out-of-the-box performance of the Briggs 206 provides the most fun, excitement, and reliability of any karting engine on the global market. Learn more about the 206 engine and the history behind Briggs & Stratton's commitment to motorsports at briggsracing.com or on Instagram at racebriggs. All right, David, a number of little bits here. Let's just start out with the one that I found out when I was kind of walking through the paddock. You were on your way down. I think you had just maybe arrived at the track. I'm walking to the paddock. I head over to Superkarts USA. I see Danny Formal. I'm like, dude, this is so cool. With you in new colors, always something exciting. Good to see you back. And then he told me that he's not racing because he actually injured his ribs practicing for the weekend. So his debut cut short before it began.
Yeah, I didn't even get a chance to see him because he did end up leaving that day from the facility and did not stick around. So, that was something we were really looking forward to, is seeing him battling back with, Morgado and Kremers and Myers and all the rest of the top drivers that we do have in the pro shifter category with the big field that we had. And it was, a bit of a disappointment to have that happen. But again, it's part of racing. We've seen a number of drivers have this type of scenario or injury happen to them. Unfortunately, it does hamper his debut with Sodi.
We can throw it in there. Actually, it gave the opportunity for Alan Isambard to jump back behind the wheel of a gearbox kart for Superkarts, and he was right in the hunt all weekend long as well.
Certainly was. Yeah, he was among those drivers towards the front end of the front half of the field all weekend long. And yeah, we've been seeing him race the single speed in the KA senior package most of the year. And I don't think he was scheduled to race there. He was just there to be coach. He's been doing a lot of work with Sodi Racing USA, and I think he's become now a dealer. Him and his family have become a dealer for Sodi Racing and in Florida. So again, it's kind of a strange situation. We've seen a number of different drivers not scheduled to race end up racing on the weekend.
Yeah. And the next bit here of the paddock pass, it's not breaking news. It's not earth shattering, but everybody will talk about the fact that one of the cool things about Newcastle Motorsports Park is, of course, the Racers Grill, right? The restaurant they have inside the building, all the food that they have, the bar, everything. It's a cool component to Newcastle Motorsports Park as a full-on racing venue, right? A motorsports venue. So listen, everybody loves the fries. They've got great food. And this is, David, you love this, and I'll give you the props. They added pizza to the menu at Newcastle Motorsports Park. And it's more about the fact, really, that they expanded out their kitchen there at the track. Mike and Estina Adams, they are now catering as well. To add on the fact that they have a full pizza oven now, but they're doing catering for all the teams. It's a really big component, I think, overall to the event itself to have catering there available. But I know you were quite happy that now you can have like midday pizzas coming right out hot out of the oven, Dave.
I mean, 1 minute flat. Who doesn't, one bite, one bite only. The same type.
One bite, scenario. Everyone knows the rules.
It's kind of where we got the 1 minute flat from was watching the Portnoy video, pizza videos.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, again, they expanded the kitchen. What was the Billy Lewis garage that has been there since they opened has now been turned into an expansion of the kitchen, includes their pizza oven and pizza prep area. But
a bunch of fridges too, yeah. Yep.
Like you said, it's more about the expansion of their catering program because they've been doing it for the last few years, and it's been kind of their kitchen wasn't really designed for it to get stuff in and out of the kitchen to get it out to the teams and the tents that are in the area. And so now they have the ability to do that with a little bit of ease, but plus having the pizza oven in there, which is always a plus for that. But I mean, it's a benchmark. Like, you think about any racetrack, this is the only racetrack that we know of that has a full-scale restaurant ready to go, breakfast, lunch, dinner, bar area, etc. You see that a lot in Europe, that a lot of the international racetracks you go to, it makes for, the parents that are there or family that are there, even especially at Newcastle, we have spectators who come in from the area to actually watch racing, whether it be Saturday or Sunday. And so again, they have set the benchmark when they first created the Racers Grill, and I think they continue to add to it. But also not just the pizza menu, but they did do some additional concrete and paving area in the paddock area that will. One area was by the tech barn. I didn't realize this until Saturday when I got over there. They expanded that area to help the in and out ease of picking up carts and getting out of tech, and allowing the tech to expand outside of the tech barn and all that. But also the grid area as well too, near the bathrooms, getting rid of the grass area that causes a lot of havoc, not necessarily for SCUSA, but for the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals or other events that come in through that way for the grid to go the normal direction. And so that'll help. That's going to help ease a lot of situation and cluster and logistics for that as well too. So again, little bit here, a little bit of there that Newcastle continues to improve on.
One of the little cool bits I added into our Paddock Insider on the weekend was the fact that Aaron Likens back again this weekend to be part of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour. Aaron, I talked about the fact that he stays rooted in karting, even though the fact that he has risen up from where he started with the St. Louis Kart Club and the SCUSA Central State Challenge, coming through the SCUSA Pro Tour, flagging all those SuperNationals, eventually getting in with also obviously USAC Racing, quarter midgets, and then even the USAC, dirt stuff and asphalt, midget racing and Silver Crown racing, sprint car racing, to get to where he is now as the chief starter of the Indianapolis 500 and the NTT IndyCar Series. And of course, Aaron's a fantastic story. You talk all about his journey through Asperger's and the speaking that he does and the books he's published now. I just love the fact that, on all these weekends, he's bust his butt so much during these IndyCar weekends, IndyCar schedule, that if there's an open weekend and he can get to a SCUSA race, he's on the flags, he's trackside. And I thought that was just a really cool component that we needed to touch on through the Paddock Insider.
Yeah, great. He was there in Cincinnati, had to miss the Orlando event. You guys were at St. Pete. So we did miss you, not necessarily you, but more Aaron than anything.
I get it.
And so, it's always great to see him. We have our conversations on the racetrack, once we, things are clear or we're in between sessions. So it's always great to have a conversation with him. Sometimes we're actually travel companions on Delta Airlines. So, it's always great to see Aaron. And it's funny, I mentioned to you, I said, we one time had a race weekend together where I was racing and he was racing, and we were both racing the same kart. It was when we did an on-track article program with Greg Yoakum and the Intrepid brand, and we did a road racing event. And I went out for a race during the day, and then he did one in the afternoon in the same kart.
I didn't know that. Okay.
It was so I've known Aaron a very long time. It's been really cool to see his progression, and again, I don't think you could get him to stop doing SCUSA events unless there is a conflict in his schedule.
And let's just be real, the style, the way he handles the flags, there's just he's got his own style, which I absolutely love for sure. So it's great to see Aaron there. He was there all weekend. One driver that wasn't really there all weekend, David, was Marjan Kremers, because the amount of being back here, then flying back to Europe, then coming back. He didn't get back actually until because of some issues coming through with travel delays. He didn't get to the track. His first laps were warm up, I think, on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
Friday. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it was. That's where I'm getting confused on. It was didn't arrive into Indianapolis until 7 p.m. Friday, so missed all of the Friday practice.
Yes.
And then it was warm up Saturday morning was his first sessions of the weekend. Now, he was here, as you said, the weekend before doing some testing. So he was familiar with what was happening, the layout, et cetera, et cetera. But the amazing thing was, as you said, left here Indianapolis last weekend, went home, then went to, I believe, Italy for a test, left Italy, went back to Amsterdam, and then got delayed in Amsterdam on his way back here, which was supposed to be here Thursday, but did not arrive until late Friday. So craziness with that. But to be able to go out and, without any practice Thursday, any practice Friday, and go out and warm up on Saturday morning and be the quickest guy out there. It shows you the talent this guy has.
Yeah, it was, and again, it was great to have him there, of course, and he made things exciting throughout the weekend. Dave, we have one more in here that you have on the notes, but I'm gonna throw another one in here real quick before we wrap up the Paddock Pass with this next segment. But the one I want to throw in there is the track layout, right? I hadn't seen anybody run the Monza, or what we call essentially the shark fin, that Monza area coming out of I-70, the left combination that leads back over to scoreboard. Lot of great feedback on that. It's not something that Scusi had run before. I know another organization ran it earlier this year and has run it before, but the feedback was fantastic on that particular part of the racetrack. You gave up the big long draft run and outbreaking into scoreboard to a certain extent. There were still lots of overtakes there, but that shark fin really kind of helped aid in a lot of excitement all weekend long.
Yeah, because the big part about it was a lot of passing going into the Monza area of the shark fin, and that's what I think caught us kind of off guard. It was like, man, we didn't realize this was going to be such a opportunist part of the racetrack where, I mean, nearly every lap we saw an overtake going into that. But when you get down there, and again, we have never done it that way. We've done it the normal direction. It just kind of sets up perfectly for that, because you want to hold that kink, left hand kink tight so you can get through the Monza properly. So that opens the door for somebody to come in on a hard braking area and make a good pass. So I mean, we saw some bad passes in there as well too, but we can talk more about that later.
Okay, well, let's wrap this thing up with. There's been a lot of talk about it. People have been asking about it. We are being confirmed the return of an endurance race to Newcastle Motorsports Park coming up in October. For those who've been around the sport a long time, everybody remembers the days of the RoboPong 200. It's not going to be called RoboPong, but there is an endurance race getting planned for I think it's the first weekend of October.
Yeah, I'm thinking that yes, it'll be the weekend after the USPKS finale. So yes, that would be the first weekend. Let me flip my camera.
I want to say it's like the 6th, 7th.
It'd be 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Okay, there you go.
So that would be the what typically has been the Cup Karts Grand Nationals weekend will now be the endurance race. Yes. This was kind of worked out at the beginning of the year with Cup Karts and USPKS and Newcastle Motorsports Park to try and schedule these events around one another, to where the Newcastle facility can keep everybody over from the USPKS weekend to do the endurance race the following weekend. So we're still waiting on more details about it. So we don't want to get any speculation. We're going to hopefully have a little bit more details this week on the website, but
that's it.
At least in the podcast, we wanted to kind of tease it.
It's happening. It's happening.
It's going to happen.
It's happening. That's the key. That is the key. All right, there you go. Our Paddock Pass brought to you by Briggs Racing, done and dusted. Into the next commercial break, we come back. Time to dive into the race report. And of course, we'll start with Pro Shifter and Pro X30. We'll discuss the Pro Show after this break. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a sealed Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and the Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the rookie, junior, senior, heavy, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the 2024 season include the Ignite Majors, which began with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway in December as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week as part of both the sprint and road race events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, which features 12 races at 6 iconic facilities. Local club programs have also been established in other states all across the country, from Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite Karting program every year. Be part of fast, fun, and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite Kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. History, success, family. Those are the three words that can describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation located just outside of Indianapolis has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. From full karting packages, new engines, spare or replacement parts, and safety gear, find it all at CometKartSales.com. Their Comet Racing Engine service has won multiple major events and championships over decades of karting and continues to offer the best trackside service in the industry, specializing in IAME X30, IAME Swift, and other 2-cycle power plants. Make sure to head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Welcome back to episode 133 of our EKN Debrief, as myself, Rob Howden, and David Cole reviewing this past weekend's Superkarts USA Pro Tour finale, the SummerNationals at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Time to dive into the race report and look at all the action we had throughout the categories involved in the event. Today's race report presented by Sodi Racing USA. What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is Sodi Kart. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to its new exclusive importer, the karting distribution led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Sodi Kart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about the Sodi Kart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry. All right, David, let's go into the Pro Shifter presented by PSL Karting Review. For those of you listening to the podcast for the first time in our debriefs, I throw out a headline. David fills it in. We discuss the category for the remainder of the time. Here's the headline for Pro Shifter. Musgrave takes emotional victory as Morgado claims crown.
Yeah, not quite the story we thought we were going to be writing.
No.
As the weekend, we went into the weekend. We knew Morgado, part of the leader, big leader in the championship. So that was kind of the part that we were expecting to be discussing at the end of the weekend. But the Musgrave taking the victory, that was kind of a shocker in the way how things kind of unfolded on the weekend. To begin things off, Saturday afternoonish, was the qualifying and Super Pole sessions for the Pro Show and the Pro Shifter category. And as we said, Martin Kremer's quickest in warm-up that morning was once again quickest in the split up qualifying sessions where they took the top 12 for the Super Pole sessions. A 104.967 was his lap time. And then it ended up being the Estonian driver for Maranello, Markus Kajak, winning the Super Pole session, a 105.022 to set the mark and the pole position for the 2 heat races later in the day for the Pro Shifter category. Now, Kajak was only able to get second in the opening heat race as AJ Myers, a multi-time SummerNationals winner at Newcastle Motorsports Park, was able to best him in that opening heat race, with Morgado finishing in the 3rd spot. But trouble for Kajak in the second heat race as contact took him out of the race. It was
at the start.
It was right on the exit of turn 1, I believe. I think, who was I talking to about it? I think it might have been just somebody got him. It was him and Myers that kind of got together a little bit.
I think Kajak had some help from the back.
That's what I was just going to say. And he had a little bit of help as they kind of almost in a way boxed everybody up, trying to fight for position through turn 1. I think the two drivers, I believe, on the pole or on the front row. So, so Kajak got turned around and was in the middle of the track, got driven over a number of times. So he retired.
Well, hey, hold on. He actually started by driving over Myers and knocking his rear bumper over top of his wheel. That was a wild thing too, because when he hit him, the right back of Myers' bumper went all up and over top of his right rear. It was wild. He reached back and pushed it off.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I was not aware of that situation, but yeah, like I said, they made contact in turn one. That basically started it up. So a number of drivers retired from that. This allowed Morgado to go ahead and take over the top spot in that heat race. So Myers and Morgado winning the heat races and filling up the front row for the main event. Myers on pole position, Morgado on the outside. Kremers and Billy Musgrave starting from row 2, with Talon Yako, the privateer, starting in the 5th position.
So let me throw in, this is the interesting thing, right? So Myers still able to get out of the incident in turn 1 with the lead, even though he had the issue, was able to reach back and pull the bumper back. So he started to pull away as the leader in the heat. And the only reason I want to come back to this is because it kind of happens twice, right? Morgado's pass on Myers comes at the tip of the shark fin as they came into the Monza. Because obviously it's a more open corner coming in our direction. When we run it in Cup Karts North America, it's a 90 degree, then into an increasing radius corner with more runoff coming the other way. When they come in, Morgado made a good move to the inside, just a light bit of contact when they turned right there, and he was able to get through cleanly. And I only say that because the next time he did it in the main event, not quite as clean. So Morgado ended up getting by Myers to get P1 in the heat race, as you said, and that put him on the outside of the front row, David, as you mentioned, for the grid.
Yeah, I mean, continue with that, because I mean, you saw it a lot better. I was there, but you saw what the footage was giving you, and
yeah, the race completed for the race itself.
We were gonna go right into the main, and that was lap 2.
Yeah. So again, it's happened before. They get things started, they get underway. Myers is leading, Morgado's right with them, and as I said before, Morgado obviously made that pass happen in heat race number 2 to get Myers to the inside. This time, he ends up getting a 5-second penalty, I believe, Dave. I think it was a 5-second penalty. Probably could have been more. He tried the move again, exactly the same move, but Myers was already kind of turning in, and Morgado didn't get the car turned, in my opinion, didn't get the car turned at the apex. And as you watch it, he kind of goes all the way past the apex, gets into the side of Myers, tries to get the thing to kind of snap rotate, obviously with the brake or whatever he was doing, and then they made wheel-to-wheel contact, left rear to right rear contact. Myers ends up, Morgado ends up really on top of Myers to a certain extent, hammers him in the left side, the side pod. He pulls away, and as he's pulling away from the damage, Musgrave's able to go to the inside. Wick comes with him as well. Wick got a great start. I'm pretty sure it was Wick. Regardless, yeah. Musgrave was able to get down the inside while they were out to the left side of the racetrack. Musgrave took the lead from there, and really at that point, he got challenged down the line by Morgado, who fought his way back forward, but Musgrave not challenged at that point through to the end of the race.
Yeah, I was standing there because I just taped the start, so I was standing kind of to the west of the Monza area, and early lap, I'm kind of watching. I'm not really taking photos or doing much of that because, again, a lot of action happens in those opening laps. And from my vantage point, that's exactly what I saw. As Morgado went in there a little too hot and wasn't able to get it stopped and turned enough to essentially miss the apex and drive into the side of Myers. And then as they were both correcting to turn right, Morgado's left rear essentially just climbed right over the whole right side of Myers' kart, going over the engine. I want to say there had to have been some kind of engine damage done to and some steering damage as well to Myers' kart, because he was not able to continue. He tried to get going again. It wouldn't go. It wouldn't even go straight. It was veering off to the right. Very strange. So so that was essentially kind of the TSN turning point of of that main event. A wild and crazy start to it. But as you said, Musgrave got through with the lead. Wick got through in the second, starting from 8th, and then Morgado slid into the 3rd spot, and that's kind of how they ran for the majority of the race. Morgado eventually got around Wick for the 2nd spot, and kind of
Wick pointed him by too. So Morgado was coming so strong, David, that once they got to the end of the straightaway down to I-70, I think Wick just realized that he was faster. And hey, listen, I haven't been able to catch Musgrave. Maybe I'll let Morgado go and see if he can't, disrupt things up and cause a bit of an incident that gets me back into it. So Wick just pointed him by at the end of the straightaway down into what I guess we'll call it turn 1, 2, whatever you want to call it there, the I-70 hairpin. And once Morgado got by, he started chasing down Musgrave for the lead.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And it's strange because Wick had the pace a little bit early on, but it seemed like the long run, it just wasn't quite there. Didn't have kind of the pace that Morgado and Musgrave were putting down. And they had a large gap over the battle for fourth. Martin Kremers was running in that position for a number of laps, and it looked like he was off the pace as well too. So really kind of boxed things up behind him, giving Wick really a lot of advantage up there in the third spots, and kind of watching the top two, probably waiting for something to happen, but nothing really did. It looked like Morgado got there at one point, and I think what we said, what Musgrave might have almost missed a shift, I think, or was close on that.
Musgrave at one point, Morgado was right there. Musgrave kind of, I want to say, may have backed him up a little bit in the shark fin there, the right hand of the shark fin.
That's what it was.
And coming out of the corner, it was actually Morgado that missed a shift a little bit, and that may have just been that little extra. I think that Musgrave needed, because he was holding on a bit, not so much holding on, but Musgrave definitely had Morgado bearing down on him over the last couple of laps.
Yeah, and Morgado to his right didn't force anything in the closing laps when he did get close, and especially in that last lap. I think Musgrave just had just enough gap to where Morgado really couldn't dive in and try something without really messing up or causing disaster for both of them. So again, Musgrave was able to hold on through the closing laps and score a very emotional victory, his first since 2023 last year in Orlando, but his first at Newcastle since 2015. So again, his first time, as he said in our interview, his first time at Newcastle in 2015 was the last time he had won there. So it's been a kind of a love-hate relationship with the facility.
And his first SCUSA KZ win as well, right? Because when he won in Orlando, He was on the 175. So I think that was big for Musgrave. The other little bit that, just to add to this, another little wrinkle, we come down to the first start, right? The standing start for the shifters. It ends up getting waved off because with 35 drivers in the field, it took a little longer to get everybody in place, and they end up waving it off. Don't want the engines to overheat. So literally what happens as we're waiting, Musgrave kind of pulls away from the grid a little bit. Obviously they're all kind of, hey, let's go. We got to go back around one more time. They eventually wave him back around. On that lap, on that start, as he was waiting, Musgrave's clutch cable snapped. So he gets rolling, and he's got no clutch. So he's literally back around the racetrack for one to come back to the grid for the second start. He knocks it into neutral, rolls up into his grid slot. Everybody gets ready like you normally would, right? There's no clutch for him to grab. He just stands on the throttle, and neutral drops it off the start. So the fact that the engine, everything held together, the clutch held together on a neutral drop start at full pin at the start of a shifter kart, the fact that he's first able to get off the line and then able to win just makes it even more of a remarkable story. Amazing.
It does. I mean, we didn't know about it until he came off the scale line and he was talking about it, and I think everybody, the team, I think kind of knew what was going on.
They did,
because I think they were motioning to him, and I told Billy, who's done a lot of laps with Josh Lane, who, as we all know, is the wild thing, and will do anything crazy, and has done something like this, to where he just goes from neutral to first or neutral to second to take off from the line. It's amazing. And that takes experience. It takes a little bit of craziness as well too, but a lot of experience to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
Cause your average typical racer is not going to be able to do that. And so it's insane to think that, but now, it gives people an opportunity to maybe try it, and just in case your clutch does break.
Exactly that. So Morgado finishes second on the racetrack. The 5-second penalty, as I mentioned, for the contact between he and Myers, moves him back to third. Wick goes back up to second. Two big finishes inside the top five as well. Talon Yockel, as you had mentioned, him and his dad and the pickup truck, the privateer effort goes to P4. And then Ian Quinn, a driver who has been stepping up big time over, throughout the season, getting quicker and quicker. For Quinn, P5 moves him from outside the top 10 for the Circle of Champions into the top 10. So he'll have all his entries paid for as part of the SCUSA Circle of Champions for 2025. And Quinn just really impressive throughout the entire weekend to be able to leverage it and in the end get to where he needed to get to.
Yeah, and Quinn got to fifth because of the penalty to Kremers, who originally was in the fifth position. I believe
because
that was contact with Alan Isambard.
Alan Isambard, yeah, he
Or
essentially
actually, it was a disqualification from the event.
He kind of nerfed Isambard off the track.
That is something we did see, Rob. I know it's kind of jumping or kind of making a broad thing, but there was a lot of driver disqualifications either from the day or from the event on the weekend, partly because of as they said, aggressive or dangerous incident responsibility. So Scusi is kind of laying the groundwork to really penalize a lot of drivers for their actions on the racetrack.
I like it. Please get aggressive. I like to drop the penalties. It's good. Hard charger on the day for the event was David Williams, CRG driver for Ron White Racing, who came out to run with he and Michael Avancino. Up 16 spots, started 33rd, ended up 17th in the final order. And David, let's cap off our review of Pro Shifter with a look at how the championship shook down when it was all said and done after round 3.
Yeah, so Margado with the third place finish locked up the championship, earning what is, I didn't pull that sheet up, but because, Kremers went back to back. So this is the third straight title for Burrell Art and PSL Karting in the Pro Shifter category. So an amazing run for them and an amazing debut season in Pro Shifter category for Margado. Jacob Gulick ended up moving up to the second spot, even though he only finished, I think, a best season 8th place. Ended up finishing second in the championship. That kind of goes into the consistency because we saw a lot of the front runners have a bad mark. Will it be Kyle Wick, his teammate, AJ Myers, who's actually finished third in the championship, only by 3.5 points behind Gulick. So certainly a top 3 finish or top 5 finish by Myers would certainly put him in the second position, but the DNF did cost him that. But Gulick, a consistent run across the season of no DNF. So with the only 3 rounds counting and points up for grabs in every session they're in, Gulick was able to earn the number 2 plate for next year.
And I'll say this as we kind of wrap ourselves up here with this Pro Show review. First time I was trackside for the Pro Show, and I really dug it. I thought it was pretty cool the way it all played out, David. Just the whole body of work over the weekend, not running the 2-week things. I thought for the Pro Show, I'm a fan of it. I liked it.
Yeah, I am too. They were trying to do some hot pit thing. I don't think that's going to work out. I don't think the racers really need that. Because again, we're looking at 10-lap heat races. So really only the main event is a long session that they run. And that's where, you can do your own testing for that. All the rest of the weekend, you got 4 7-minute practice sessions, a 12-minute at the end of the day on Friday. That's when you get your long run in. And then from there, you kind of adjust from there. So again, we say it all the time, Rob, we love the one final type format for race weekends. And we see it in USPKS competition. So the way the Pro Show is, and especially for them on Sunday, they don't have to be there till lunch to get their warm up and then main event at the end of the day. So it allows these drivers to kind of work with the teams within the teams and do what they need to do in order to help the teams out and then be ready to go towards the end of the day.
I like it. Let's go to Pro X30 presented by Speed Concepts Racing. Here is your headline. Norberg sweeps weekend to claim 6th title.
Yeah, going into the weekend, we knew Ryan Norberg needed a sweep on the weekend at Newcastle at the Summer Nationals with his DNF at the Spring Nationals in Ohio. So it was a 95-point disadvantage deficit he was facing coming into the weekend. Diego Ramos leading the way. You had Hayden Jones in the mix with a couple of podium finishes. You had Paulie Massimino, Brandon Carr, all in the mix, all in the top 5 with Ryan Norberg there sitting in 5th spot. Well, when we go to Newcastle, we know Ryan Norberg knows how to drive this racetrack, coming in as a 5-time SCUSA Pro Tour champion. Didn't get it in qualifying session that made up the Super Pole sessions. That Alessandro De Tullio was the only driver to get in the 107s during those sessions with the fresh tires. So a 107.942. But in the Super Pole session, the second, what do you call that? The tires, I'm thinking. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Heat cycle?
Anyway, yes, the second heat cycle. I think Ryan Norberg was gunning for that more so than anything and was able to get the Super Pole fast time a 108.004 to secure the pole position for the 2 heat race as well.
And 10 points.
And 10 points. So that was the first step in his championship hunt. The next 2 steps, heat 1 and heat 2, check and check with 2 race wins in those, where he had Hayden Jones finishing second in both races. So Jones still keeping himself in the championship hunt, with Austin Garrison finishing third and Jonathan Ports finishing third in those 2 heat races. But the main thing in heat number 1 was Diego Ramos recording a DNF after a mechanical issue on the front end of the cart, forcing him to pull off the racetrack. That was essentially the loss of the championship, really, in my mind, looking at it, because a lot of points lost there, and really kind of ruined his momentum, put him further back on the grid for the main event as well. Wasn't able to get in the top 3 in heat 2, so that was essentially his championship gone at that moment.
And Jones, with his consistency, with a couple of second places in the heat races, David, he actually had the point lead coming into the main event.
He had the point lead coming into the main event. It was he and Norberg on the front row, with Austin Garrison and Jonathan Ports at row 2, and Alessandro De Tullio sitting there in the 5th spot. And I believe Harley Keeble was starting 6th, possibly as well too.
Yeah.
So
all inter MS row 3.
Yes. So interesting part of that. So you get into the start of the main event, Hayden Jones sitting there on the outside of the front row. As we all know, that is not the place you want to be at a lot of the racetracks we go to, especially going into the I-70 corner at the start of the race. He did end up getting pushed off the racetrack as they started the race, basically fell back all the way to 15th on the opening lap. So when we're looking at it, I want to say if he finished second with Norberg winning and a fast lap of the race, Jones would be the champion. Yep. So this was a big setback. This essentially decided the championship for him, even though he did put in a very valiant drive back forward. There was no catching Norberg and no catching Garrison, who were the top 2 drivers in this main event. They essentially broke away from the field. Garrison actually did lead for 2 laps early in the race, but Norberg took back the position, established a little bit of a gap, probably about 5 to 6 kart lengths, just enough to where Garrison was in his draft, and they were kind of basically going lap for lap as the laps clicked off. And towards the end of the race, however, Garrison seemed to find like kind of a second wind and was really starting to close back in on Norberg, and was really right there as they were making the final lap. But
well, Ryan did tell us, he goes, I probably went defensive a little too early at the end.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was. I think maybe like with 2 to go, I think he did kind of put a couple defensive lines in.
Yeah.
But nothing too egregious, I would say. We saw it a lot worse on the weekend in other categories.
We did.
But yeah, again, you're protecting, and you need to get the victory. Even though Garrison's not in the championship, that's still a 20-point swing if you go from first to second. So it was a very crucial part in his championship bid, knowing he needed to get the victory. Garrison, the professional that he is, didn't make any bold or low percentage moves.
Exactly, yeah.
And, fought him to the very end. I believe they were kind of sideways as they made their way to the line, as Norberg took the victory by 79 thousandths at the line, ahead of Garrison to pick up his second victory of the year and lock in a 6th championship at the SCUSA Pro Tour.
Legendary status. I keep throwing that out there. This is ridiculous. 100% legendary status. Garrison got fast lap of the race, I believe, as well. So with that, Jones needed to finish third. He would have still been able to take the championship, I believe. He ends up P5. Jonathan Ports comes home to third. Harley Keeble ends up in the 4th spot, and Jones, a absolutely heroic run back up through the field. Just, again, with Norberg and Garrison pulling away, like you said, David, really not much Jones could do. He needed to get the Ports. That wasn't going to happen. He ends up coming back to the 5th spot, and when it's all said and done, does finish second in the points. I'll let you wrap that up in a couple of seconds. Hard charger on the race, plus 11 for Alex Feldstein, the Tony Kart driver, starting 19th, got his way up into 8th position. But in the end, like you said, David, Ryan Norberg's 6th championship in SCUSA Pro Tour competition, 18.5 points ahead of Jones. Jones needed those 2 more spots.
Or Garrison to pass him for the
victory. Or that.
I mean, that would have gave Jones, there was a lot of things that kind of, I believe there was contact. DeTulio ended up retiring while I think battling for 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
So that gave Jones a couple of positions. Paulie Massimino and Gia Cicero getting together late in the race, I think might have helped him as well too. So a lot of things kind of shook out over the final laps, but really, it's ironic. Jones was Garrison's big fan, needed Garrison to try and take that victory away from his teammate, ironically, and unfortunately wasn't able to do that. So yeah, Garrison not picking up the victory gave Jones a 18.5 deficit to Norberg in the championship standings, while Diego Ramos, who did end up finishing, I want to say 8th. I forgot to pull that up. Sorry. But 39.5 points out of the championship lead. So kind of another heartbreaker for Ramos, who did go from 17th to 10th, or from 17th to 7th in the main event. Again, that DNF in the opening heat race costing him a lot of points. Like, you look, 39.5. That's essentially, I want to say, about a 3rd place or 4th place finish in a heat race. So had he been able to stay up there and maybe got those points, it could have been another part of the championship chase going into Sunday. So to come in last year as a championship leader and lose it, and to do it again this year, it's very heartbreaking for him. But again, I think they're still making strides. They just got to get over the hump of not having any letdowns to be able to be a championship contender.
All right, so into our next commercial break. When we come back, we'll get back into the race report brought to you by Sodi Racing. We'll talk about KA100 Senior, X30 Junior, and KA100 Junior as well. Don't go anywhere, folks. More on this edition of the Debrief after this. What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is Superkarts. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to the new exclusive importer, the Karting Distribution, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Superkarts is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has expanded its dealer network over the last year, bringing the Sodi brand to several local clubs and regional programs. The Sodi Racing USA by PK Sports is the official race team, producing many victories in different levels across the board. And the new Pro Race Academy is designed to cater to the next generation of motor racing, helping boys and girls aiming to make their mark. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about Sodi kart chassis, or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by 4-time Supernats champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at the Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. Factory Karts bring together the highest quality materials to produce a high-performance, long-lasting kart that has been designed and perfected from 3 years of development, with a focus for a big push across North America in 2023. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product like Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Do you remember when American made meant innovative, original, stronger, faster, and just plain better? Well, American made is back. Contact Factory Karts today to join the American made movement. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. Welcome back to episode 133 of the EKN Debrief as we break down this past weekend Superkarts USA Pro Tour Summer Nationals, the finale of the national program for Superkarts USA. The race report today brought to you by Sodi Racing USA. Let's go into the KA100 Senior category presented by Sodi Racing USA. And here is the headline: Overbeck makes dream reality with victory and championship.
We're going to be hearing a lot about this guy, James Overback, in karting over the next couple of years with the way he was able to kind of put his name on the map over the weekend. A driver we're familiar with that in the junior competition and is just kind of giving his. It was kind of a late move to have him into the weekend. Caleb Gaffera. Thursday night, jumped into the machine, Chad Dawkin Racing Kart Republic, to get some data for their drivers as he was driver coaching and doing data for the team. And once they saw he was about 0.3 quicker than anybody else on the racetrack, they decided to race. And that speed carried over into qualifying, setting fast time in that morning session on Saturday for round 5. And it seemed like he had a partner all weekend long, but it wasn't a teammate. It was the Burrell Art and PSL karting driver Henry Wheeler, Ohio driver, who's kind of been getting better and better as the season went along and has been there in a number of events. Those two were kind of just they were like twins that couldn't separate from one another. They were running together, practice, qualifying, and then the pre-final worked together to get away, and Wheeler ended up getting the victory in that pre-final. So he started on the pole position, but it was Overbeck, Wheeler, and Drew that were the lead group when it came to the main event. Those 3 drivers able to get away, and it was Overbeck who actually came up from, I want to say, the 8th spot after getting shuffled back in the pre-final to make up the lead group. Those 3 were kind of going the way with Overbeck leading a majority of the race. Towards the end of the race, it was Wheeler and Drew that got around and started battling for the lead. And on the final lap, Wheeler kind of went defensive a little bit, but left just enough room for maybe Jake to get underneath. But Jake got into the marbles. It looked like the kart just got all sideways this way and that. It almost looked like he locked up the brakes, but he said just the marbles kind of just pushed him wide of the apex. So he completely missed the apex, went wide, lost all his momentum. Wheeler had to kind of do an over-under to avoid him, slowing up his pace. So as they went through the shark fin, this allowed Overbeck to close back up on him, and he pulled off an over-under through the scoreboard corner. And that was enough to give Overbeck the lead, and he was able to reach the checkered flag first by only 53 thousandths at the line to secure his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory.
Yeah, so Fernando Luque, David, up into 3rd spot, and Drew actually did finish 4th, I believe, on the racetrack, correct?
Correct. Finished 4th on the racetrack, but a pushback bumper penalty dropped him out of the top 5.
So that put Eli Warren up into the 4th spot, and Keegan Kaminsky rounding out the top 5. Again, a big win for Overbeck to put himself really into a nice position heading into Championship Sunday. Hard charger on the day on Saturday for round number 5, for KA 100 Senior was Mick Gabriel, the Cosmic driver, starting way back in 38th, got his way up to 13th. So a good run for Mick Gabriel coming back forward. Sunday, once again, very similar to what we saw on Saturday, but it actually played out a little better for the North Carolina driver, Caleb Gaffera. Qualified on the pole once again, putting that Chad Dawkin Racing Kart Republic machine P1, goes into and actually wins the pre-final as well. Finally was able to come away with the win as well, David, but it was not without a lot of excitement, that's for sure.
Yeah, he led until the white flag lap. That's when Wheeler took over the lead. And then making their way through the final lap, Wheeler just gave him essentially the inside. Gaffar went to the inside at scoreboard and didn't defend. And Gaffar made the move. And at that time, this allowed a second, as they were kind of racing, allowed another group to come up. And so Wheeler got caught up by this other group. I think Luque was part of it, along with Jake Drew. Drew was coming up all the way up from the 28th position to get his way up into the lead group. And so that was the winning move. Gaffera went unchallenged to the checkered flag for his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory as they battled hard and heavy for the second spot, which included championship contender James Overback and Finnegan Bailiff. It was a little bit of a interesting scenario. Again, Bailiff needed to win the race really to have a chance at the championship, and Overbeck kind of just needed to put himself either ahead of Bailiff or really just around him, not really needing any particular position to secure the championship, but kind of keep himself up front. So there was a lot of drama going into that final lap with that big group that I think was at 3 wide at one time with a couple corners left to go.
Well, that was the crazy thing is Gafera kind of got himself into the lead. You talked about the pass he made on Wheeler, and all of a sudden, like everything happened behind him coming into the green corner, right? The left-hander. They were 3 wide coming in there. Caleb was able to kind of jet away, and they were literally, like as you said, they were all over the place, 3 wide everywhere. If there was an opening, somebody was taking it. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah, Drew was on the move big time coming up through. He did a tremendous job as the hard charger, up 26 spots, like you said. Just those last couple laps were absolutely wild. Luque ends up in third, Wheeler fourth, Campbell ends up in fifth. I think it was Bailiff like seventh or something like that. I'd have to go back and look.
Bailiff was sixth,
okay.
So he got himself. I think he was ninth as the lap began. Was 10th actually when the lap began, and got himself up into sixth.
Wow.
Overback was actually, I want to say third actually when that lap began, and dropped all the way back to eighth. But it was funny because he was actually fourth at one time during that lap, fell back, got back up to fourth with this, dive move through the double left hands. But then as they went through the final couple of corners, it was 2 wide, 3 wide, everybody going everywhere. And so Bailiff finished sixth, Overback eighth. And that essentially gave the championship to James Overback.
Yeah, he ends up winning the title by 31 markers over Bailiff, with Henry Wheeler wrapping it up 98 points back. And I think, David, the cool thing we talk about in the headline where he makes his dream kind of a reality is that in the interviews with us, in the interviews with Kart Chaser, he talked about the fact that, number one, he never thought he'd be able to get to the place as a driver, or even in his program where he'd be able to contest or win a Superkarts USA Pro Tour Championship. But he also talked about the fact that he used to look up to all these drivers when he was racing elsewhere, that, man, these guys are the ones that are racing on the Pro Tour, and if I could have a chance to win that one day, it would be amazing. And now here's a guy that can put that on the resume, and there are kids around the country now that are looking at James Overbeck saying, man, I want to emulate that guy, and I want to win a championship like he did. So I think all told, that the storyline for James is just a great one for this past weekend.
Yeah, and I think we all began our karting or racing careers that way, looking up to somebody or looking at a goal or
the benchmark,
a
right?
benchmark to get to. And yeah, so, to put Superkarts USA Pro Tour Championship on that list is, it's a high feat. I think Ryan Norberg really, the only abnormal person with the 6 championships. Jordan Musser with 5 as well too. So there are those, again, drivers who are, as you said, legendary, but to be able to put your name alongside of those as a SCUSA Pro Tour champion is very hard to do. And again, you got to put the work in. And I think that's something we've seen done over the last couple of years, gotten hooked up with Brandon Jarza Crack Racing, a championship driver in his own right. So it's kind of his, him and Paulie Massimino's project, and Mike Doty as well too. James Overback is a product of those 3 guys kind of working and melding James Overback as a driver.
Let's go to X30 Junior now, presented by Rawlson Performance Group. And here's the headline: Wolney and Brown split wins as Ardiles earns title.
Yeah, this was one of those categories where the championship went all the way to the wire. A lot of things could have happened. So every session mattered for this category. And Diego Ardiles knew that, came out setting the fast time and qualifying on Saturday for round 5, coming in as a 2-time race winner. So getting those 10 bonus points on Saturday, and then winning the pre-final, get even more points and get going towards that championship drive, with Jackson Wolney coming in as a championship leader. So a lot of things going this way or that with the 2 Speed Concept Racing teammates. Got into the main event. It was a Turner Brown and Diego Ardiles battle at the front of the field. These 2 drivers able to get away. But as the race kind of came to a close with about 3 laps remaining, Ardiles went very hard defensive. And when we say hard defensive, I'm talking like slow apex, entry, exit, just kind of defining a very strange pace. And this essentially allowed the second group to close right back in. And that was a kind of wild last couple of laps. They went into turn 1 at one point. It was lap 15. So just as they got to 2 laps to go, and Brown and Ardiles made contact going through the corner, and Brown got the worst of it, essentially got shoved off on the outside of the racetrack, fell all the way back to the 8th position. So it took him out of the chance for a victory. But this opened up the door for Jackson Wolney, who was trailing them by probably about 2 seconds, maybe even more. I don't even know what it was at one time, but he finally had just gotten himself up into third after fighting all race long for the spot. And boom, once this contact happened, and they were already right there, knifed his way through, took over the lead, and from there went on to score a second career SCUSA Pro Tour victory in the X30 division.
Yeah, big victory for him for sure. In the end, David, let's talk about the fact that Ardiles comes home in second. Chase Gassio-Lee, who was in the middle of the discussion all weekend long, finishes third. Turner Brown, though, ahead of Nix Eggleston. Eggleston finishes fifth. Brown ends up in fifth, but everybody from Brown on back, there was a lot of help because there were a lot of penalties in that race.
Well, no, Brown actually crossed the line in the 8th position. But because of penalties to Fisher, Van Chev, and Shapiro, Bornman, all 4 drivers got penalties. So this promoted Turner Brown up into the 4th position, moving Nix Eggleston, the Arizona driver, up into the 5th spot in the final results of the day. So, a good kind of recovery for Brown, even though it was a lot of different penalties that put him into the top 5. But certainly not the finish he was hoping for when the day ended on Saturday.
Yeah, even with the penalty to Alex Vanchev, he is the hard charger up 10 spots, 18th up to 8th. So let's go over into Sunday then. Championship Sunday, final round of the series. Jackson Wolney winning on Saturday. He takes that momentum and goes P1 in qualifying on Sunday. But again, not surprising, there was going to be just as an equal amount of excitement throughout all the racing on the day.
Well, and it also gave him the championship lead with counting all 5 rounds. But when you factored in the drop, Ardiles was leading by 45 points. So that 10 bonus points for Wolney was certainly a help. Yep. Unfortunately, when they got in the pre-final, he went the wrong direction, fell all the way back to, I believe, the 14th position by the time they wrapped up the pre-final, which was won by Turner Brown. So he did get a little help with Ardiles not winning the pre-final, but Ardiles ended up finishing second in that race. And it was those 2 drivers that were able to kind of pull away. Ty Fisher ended up leading early in the first couple of laps, but once Brown and Ardiles got by him, he kind of lost their draft and fell back into the second group, but continued to fall backwards, kind of fighting for position. So late in the race, ended up being the 2 drivers fighting for the lead between Brown and Ardiles, and Brown actually securing the top spot and earning his second victory on the season, beating Ardiles to the line by just over a 1/10 of a second.
So Nick Eggleston finishing in the 3rd spot, Chase Gassio-Lee back up to 4th, Ty Fisher 5th. But Wolney, let's talk about Wolney, who got back to P4, but the pushback moved him further back, correct?
Correct. Pushback bumper penalty dropped him from 4th to the 7th position. Not much of a difference in the championship with that penalty because Ardiles was ahead of him. So not a big championship blow in terms of that, but kind of an upsetting end to be outside the top 5 for Wolney.
And the thing for the second straight day was actually a penalized driver who still ended up being the hard charger. Wolney, although he would have been 14th to 4th, goes 14th to 7th. So still the 7 spots was enough to give him the hard charger. In the championship chase, David had already mentioned Diego Ardiles for Speed Concepts Racing running the CS55 chassis. Ends up 100 points ahead of Jackson Wolney, and Turner Brown 125 back with a big win on Sunday.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you got any more? Add one more bit there, and we'll go into KA100 Junior.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, KA100 Junior presented by Nash Motorsports. Here's the headline. You've heard the name before, but the headline is Ardiles locks up double championship.
Yeah, a pretty phenomenal feat for Ardiles, but had to get some work done on Saturday in order for that to happen, as he was able to clinch the championship early into the weekend. Did lose points in qualifying and the pre-final, as Turner Brown was able to score fast time in the time session and then win the pre-final race as well. But in the main event, it was a 3-driver battle up front. The same familiar names we're used to with Ardiles, Brown, but also Enzo Vidmontien, who's just running the KA100 Junior category on the weekend. And again, a very defensive line that was a bit strange to see by Diego Ardiles over the last 3 laps. So KA100 Junior was the first race on the day, and this is where we first saw it, with Ardiles running that the very slow defensive line around the racetrack. He kind of duplicated that in X30 Junior later in the day. But this is where we saw it the first time. And again, it brought a big group of racers back into the mix and kind of made for a little bit of a chaotic finish with a lot of position shuffling, a lot of drivers going back and forth as essentially Diego owned the apex everywhere he went. Yeah. And again, you own the apex, you own the corner. So he continued that momentum through the final lap, was able to hold off the entire pack, winning for another time on the season, essentially clinching the championship as well with victory by just over a tenth ahead of Turner Brown.
Yeah, Dean Peterson coming home in the third spot. Vid Montien was fourth, and Ty Fisher finishing up the top five. And indeed, as David had said, with all that low lining, just brought everybody back. And we were calling it on the broadcast as well. We could see these guys keep coming, like first one group, then another group. We wondered how many guys would end up being in the lead group when it was all said and done. Hard Charger goes to Luca Popescu, the GFC driver, up 16th spot, started 27th, got himself up into the 11th position. So, as well, David, 15 spots in the pre-final to get to where he was to start 27th, correct?
Yeah, amazing day to be able to gain 31 positions over the two races. So a pretty busy day for Luca Popescu.
Same names in the middle of the fight up front on Sunday. Diego Ardiles going P1 to qualify on pole. Turner Brown ends up coming back to win the pre-final. But David, there was a lot of drivers that were in the lead pack on this one here, trying to battle for the race win in the final day of action.
Yeah, this was a great race. A lot of drivers in the lead pack. You had a lot of jostling for position, and you had three different leaders. You had Brown, Vid Montien, and Ardiles all take the lead at one point. Very little did we see a driver lead for back-to-back laps. So it was a lot of lead changes throughout the race. Eventually, however, it was Brown to the lead, taking the white flag, and he was able to hold off the rest of the pack, including Diego Ardiles, nearly picking him off at the line. It was 86 thousandths of a second, with Turner Brown picking up his second victory on the season ahead of Diego.
Yeah, Vid Montien coming home in third to cap off the podium. Ty Fisher, another top five. Jackson Wolney was in this one as well. We didn't see him in the top five on Saturday, but he got there on Sunday. All wraps up with another championship for Diego Ardiles. Back-to-back, two championship wins on the day for him. Turner Brown ends up second overall in the championship, 89 points back. Vid Montien won 86 points back. So, David, just, those are three of the top young junior drivers in the sport. They came to the forefront. Everybody knows these guys can get it done. And on a Saturday and a Sunday in late July at Newcastle Motorsports Park, Ardiles wraps it up with a couple of titles.
Yeah, I believe there were the three selections in my all-star team as well.
There you go.
But don't forget the Hard Charger, Rob. Don't forget the Hard Charger.
I did the Hard Charger already. Oh,
not
I did
for
not.
Sunday.
Same one. Hold on. Luca Popescu again?
Again, Rob.
So hold on. What did you say? You said he got 31 spots on Saturday. Then that means he had 46. 46 spots through the Saturday pre-final, Saturday main, and Sunday main event. That's unbelievable.
It's crazy. I mean, but then it is the largest category that we did have on the weekend. So it allows for a lot more carts to pass, but just to be able to recover from, having, again, a wreck on Sunday. I believe it was a wreck on Sunday as well too, bad qualifying. That's what it was. Yeah. Cause he had to come up through the pre-final. So I'm going to have to look and see, so I'm going to see if he actually made any passes in the pre-final, because I mean you got to count those as actual spots. So
otherwise, it's 46 spots.
Yeah,
over three races.
It's pretty crazy. So we'll have to do a little research and maybe build up a little graphic for that, because that's just phenomenal.
Shout out to Luca Popescu having some fun, passing a bunch of carts. Well done. All right, folks, another break in the action. We get back. We'll wrap up the race report, brought to you by Sodi Racing USA, Master Shifter, Mini Swift, and Micro Swift, to cap off the race report of this edition of the Debrief. In racing, experience is priceless. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry, and with over 30 years of combined karting experience, we can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. Check out our online store at franklinkart.com, where all of our products are just a mouse click away. We continue to add to our growing product selection on the online store, and we ship daily to ensure products get to you quickly. We specialize in IAME engines, tilt seats, the ceramic product line, driveline branded products, Briggs & Stratton engines, smoker performance sprockets, OTK products, AIM, MG tires, and of course, the championship winning Merlin chassis. In our online store, you'll find a variety of items to fill your karting needs. Franklin Motorsports is also known for our wide variety of services and is home to Innovative Engine Works by FMS, our in-house engine service department. Frame straightening, kart prep, and dyno testing are all services offered regularly at Franklin Motorsports. Be sure to stop by the Franklin trailer during the United States Pro Kart Series events as the official trackside vendor. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. Since 1933, DID has been designing and manufacturing high-quality chains that are chosen and utilized by the world's best power sports athletes and is the winningest chain brand in the industry. From the hairpin turns of MotoGP to the local circle track and everywhere in between, DID has a chain offering for all level of power sports, and they are designed to outlast and outperform the competition. DID's kart chain lineup offers variations of chains, from high-performance sealed chains to the industry-leading non-sealed 219 HTZ chain. The DID SDH pin treatment is the unique design that allows for a lighter chain for less rotational mass, yet still keeping a high tensile strength for peak performance. DID also offers various levels of 4-pitch and 5-pitch chains to fit your drive chain needs. With over 90 years of experience, stay driven with DID. Welcome back to episode 133 of the EKN Debrief Show, the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Summer Nationals, capping off the national program at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Sodi Racing USA bringing us our race report here for this show. Master Shifter turn time, brought to you by Fury Motorsports. The headline, second career championship for Barnes.
Yes, it was. And the way he did it is by sweeping the action on Saturday. He knew his championship rival and teammate Joe Ruck had the ability to kind of come in and possibly steal the championship from Barnes, but either one of them needed a sweep on the weekend. And it started on Saturday with Scott Sketchy Barnes doing that to secure the championship essentially by the end of Saturday. But once Sunday began and the points kind of fell where they did in qualifying, essentially gave him the provisional championship going on through the rest of the day. So on Saturday, it was a sweep for Barnes, setting fast time in qualifying, winning the pre-final. And then in the main event, Joe Rook gave him a lot of issues early on, but eventually a brake issue cost him the opportunity to battle for the victory on Saturday. It also cost Mike Rivera a race as well, too, as he kind of got caught up in Joe's issue coming out of the shark fin area. So a little bit of contact, and Rivera had nowhere to go. And
Mike had just caught up too.
Just caught up to the group as well. And so took Rivera unfortunately out of the race with the contact, and Joe had to retire with the brake issue that he wasn't able to continue on throughout the race. So unfortunate for him. But up front, Barnes continued on, this time getting challenged by Tim Hollowell, the local driver from Indianapolis, a former Formula BMW racer, which I had to remind you of.
You did. We had to go way back. Yeah.
2007, he said.
Yeah,
and that's
amazing.
Amazing. So a new driver to the category as well, too. He had never done Pro Tour in the Master Shifter division as well. So Hollowell on the TB kart challenged Barnes all race long. Never really was able to quite make a move. Did so, tried to on the last corner, a little bit of contact, but Barnes was already there, and went on to celebrate the victory, taking his second of the season.
Yeah, Hollowell, very impressive. A couple of podiums, as you'll hear about. He ends up second on Saturday. Luis Quinones on the factory kart finishes in third. Nick Bedard in fourth. And Justin Kelly coming back after over 6 or 7 months on the sidelines. They were decided to kind of take a break from karting. He and his wife, Tiffany, showed up and came back for the Summer Nationals and got hooked big time again. So Justin Kelly coming home to wrap up the top 5. Will Lynn for Catalyst, the ITAL kart driver with the hard charger, started 12th, plus 5 spots up to 7th. On Sunday, the local driver Hollowell, though, in qualifying, it might have been the last lap as well, David, lays the lap down and he goes P1 to start on the inside of the front row for the pre-final.
Yeah, that was a weird session. I remember you guys calling it because Barnes was trying to pass people. Like, I think he got stuck behind somebody that he didn't really want to, or however it played out. I don't know if it was Gouache or
I think it might have been
else.
Quiones. I think he was trying to get by
Quiones,
I think.
Yeah, so it was a weird session because I think Ruck kind of screwed up a couple segments of his fast lap as well too. But Hollowell was quick. I mean, he was quick all weekend long and was able to take the top honors in the qualifying session. But Joe Ruck was able to come through with the pre-final win. So trying to make up for the loss of the championship and the DNF on Saturday, came through with a pre-final win and then got the whole shot in the main event and essentially led the entire distance. Got challenged as Barnes came up from 6th, who got a pre-final starting penalty. I guess he wasn't lined up correctly, and so he was penalized and dropped to 6th in the order of the pre-final. So came from 6th up into the 2nd spot and made a couple mistakes, got to the back of the bumper, made another mistake, and just wasn't able to make a move on Joe Ruck as the Indiana driver was able to celebrate on his home turf a 3rd victory on the season.
Yeah, so Ruck with the win, Barnes 2nd, Hollowell 3rd, Rivera 4th, Bedard ends up 5th. I'm gonna throw the fact in that Justin Kelly finished 6th because the top 6 drivers at one point were separated by 3 seconds. Then it came down to 2 seconds. They were all banging out exactly the same lap times, essentially. It was ridiculous. And they end up, the top 6, David, ends up crossing the line 3 seconds apart. So all 6 of those drivers could have won. None of them really stood out like, man, this was the dominant driver on the day. It was super cool to see all 6 of those guys laying down lap times. And again, we talk about the growth of the class here over the year. 13 drivers in Master Shifter at the Summer Nats. And there were 6 guys that were bad fast in that Sunday main event. Any of the 6 could have won that race based on pace alone.
Yeah, I think they all had like essentially the same lap times every lap. It just, I think it all made, it was all based around mistakes. Like if you didn't make a mistake, that helped you. Or if you made a mistake, you lost ground and then you had to fight your way back. So again, very similar lap times because you look at the quickest lap was by Bedard. The Canadian had a 107.626.
Who was the slowest?
The slowest was actually Joe Ruck with a 107.765. So
isn't that awesome?
I think he was the more consistent driver, but just not necessarily the quickest driver.
Literally, everybody in the top 6, their fastest laps were either a 106 between a 106.6 and a 107.7. 107.6 to a 107.7. Like literally, it was just over a tenth of a second. Yep. Unbelievable up front. Man, those guys did a great job. Barnes got the hard charger. Again, 13 drivers in the field. Not a lot of movement outside the top 6 there. Started 6th, ends up in 2nd. Barnes winning the championship by just 32 points over Rook, and Luis Quiones finishes in 3rd. All of them under the same tent because all those guys, the factory kart guys, are down under the Vermont Kart Company tent as well. So they were celebrating big time on Sunday afternoon, those top 3 drivers who will have the 1 and 2 and 3 plates for 2025.
Correct. With Scott Barnes, the champion, Joe Ruck in 2nd, 32 points back, and Luis Quinones, last year's champion, 3rd, 288 points back on the factory kart.
Let's move to Mini Swift, presented by Trinity Karting Group, and here's the headline. Woon claims championship with 3rd victory on season.
Yeah, Ashton Woon knew what he needed to do coming into Newcastle with 2 wins in his belt already. And with a lot of points up for grabs, Saturday was the ticket for him. Missed out on the 10 points in qualifying as Royce Vega, Orlando winner, was able to claim the fast time in that session. But pre-final, it ended up being Woon taking the victory. The main event, it was kind of Dylan Tavella-esque with Ashton Woon hooking up with one other driver as he was able to push out Rocco Simone. Those two were able to get away from the rest of the field and make it just a 2-driver race for the victory. Woon led a majority of the race, but Simone did lead for a couple laps, but Woon was able to take the lead back on the final circuit, claiming his third victory on the season by just over a tenth of a second.
Yeah, Braden Wagner had a really good weekend as well. He was up to third in that race, but a penalty for contact dropped him down to the 8th spot. Josh Bergman getting moved up from 4th to 3rd. De Janeiro, who announced his had a big announcement for Supertune earlier in the week, showed up well, 5th on track, 4th for De Janeiro. Then Nico Katowski rounding out the top 5, David.
Yeah, and it was De Janeiro with the hard charger of the race aboard that Parolin, moving 27 spots from 31st to 4th. But it was also Josh Bergman who moved up 25 spots. So those two were kind of running together on the racetrack to move their way up from the back of the field.
We kind of picked that up when we were doing the driver introductions. We're like, here's two super fast guys deep in the field. If they can connect and get together and move to the forefront, they could be guys to watch, and they indeed obviously were. Bergman and Enzo Gennaro ends up finishing 3rd and 4th, respectively, after the penalty to Braden Wagner. Moving into Sunday, Rocco Simone, who was in the middle of the fight with Ashton Woon, was the quickest driver coming out of the gate. He won the fastest time in qualifying. Woon, though, back again to get max points, David, in the pre-final.
Yeah, but he didn't really need it. By that point, he had wrapped up the championship. There were different results from Saturday night to Sunday morning, and I think the Wagner one was part of it. So it kind of jostled some points around, and we found out that Woon essentially had the championship locked up after qualifying. So
by about 4 points, I think, right?
Yes, I think that's what it was. So just enough to secure the provisional championship, but still wanted to get through the Sunday action, and did take away points from drivers by winning the pre-final. The main event was a little bit good racing, yes and no, but there were some contact that took out a number of drivers throughout the race. You had Troy Ferguson leading early, but he got pushed back to about the 6th position, with Royce Vega, Ashton Woon, and Rocco Simone kind of leading the way over the course of the racetrack, or over the course of the race. Once the last lap began, however, contact pushed Royce Vega off the racetrack on the exit of turn 1. That essentially took him out of the race. That kind of contact allowed Troy Ferguson to come right back through with the lead, and was able to hold the position through the final lap and secure his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory in the Mini Swift division.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The great run for him. Simone coming home in 2nd. Lorenzo Varela was actually in the middle of the discussion throughout the weekend. Varela did a great job on the Sodi kart. Woon came home in the 4th spot. Good enough for the championship. Josh Bergman, David, another top 5 finish. Although were there? I think there was a couple of penalties that moved him up into the top 5. Correct.
Correct. There were penalties to Marco Samet, Kaysen Hodge, I believe, suffered a DQ that took him out of the results, and then Aston Wyatt as well, also getting a penalty. So promoted Bergman up from the 8th position up into the top 5.
John McClellan was the official hard charger on the Energy chassis, up 23 spots, started 31st and ended up in the 8th position. But De Janeiro, we talked about the fact that he got 27 spots up in the Saturday main. He ends up getting 18 as well. So 45 points, 45 position gained over the 2 main events for De Janeiro.
Yeah, crazy. A great way to kind of learn what the Parolin chassis is going to do. If you're, first weekend out on it, you're going to be passing a lot of carts.
As we said, Ashton Woon ended up getting the championship. It was done and dusted by the end of the 5th round. 4 points. Even if the guys around him had perfect days, they would have came up 4 points short. Rocco Simone, 157 back, 2nd place in the championship, but Troy Ferguson rounding out the top 3. Let's go now into the Micro Swift category presented by J&M Racing. And here's the headline. Ramirez and Francisco split wins as Burgess claims title.
This was another championship that was essentially decided on Saturday. Not by a winner, though, however, but a driver that we've been seeing up front. A new driver we saw up front, Jaden Francisco, the RPM Nitro Kart driver, able to set fast time in qualifying, win the pre-final. But in the main event, it was a battle. There's a number of different drivers fighting for the victory. Among them, championship contender Zane Burgess. He got pushed back to 6th in the opening lap. but was able to fight his way back into the lead by lap 7. Let's see, that was about the halfway point because this was a 14-lap race. 2 laps later, however, Francisco pulls off the racetrack on lap 10. Not quite sure what the reason was, but he was fighting all the way up until that point and then drove off the racetrack to the skid line.
I heard a couple of different possibilities or what supposedly happened. Someone had told me he thought when he got to halfway, he thought it was 2 to go, did 2 more laps and pulled in.
That is what I was told as well, and that's what I told you. And that that came straight from the parent, from Dad, and from Richard Gutierrez, who working with the Nitro Kart driver. So just a rare mistake made by a very young driver who I think this is his first year in micro.
Yeah, and a learning experience. Race to the checkered flag, right?
Exactly.
He obviously didn't see the checkers. So anyway, so he pulls off. He's out of the hunt. So let's dive back into it.
So as he does that, Daniel Ramirez, the Cosmic driver for Rawlins Performance Group, moves his way up into the lead on lap 11. And at that point was able to get a big advantage over the rest of the group, kind of shuffling, maybe not really knowing what was going on, because who knows what 8-year-olds are thinking when you watch one of your friends just drive off the racetrack to the scale line for no reason. So
that's true.
So yeah, again, Ramirez took advantage from all this chaos that was going on, took the lead, and from there was able to drive away to, I believe, his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory by 1.3 seconds at the line.
Yeah, Zane Burgess coming home in the second spot for big points. Jake Manalillo ends up in third, Win Godshock in fourth, and Lawrence Perriman rounding out the top 5. Perriman actually the hard charge as well, up 13 spots. 18th up to 5th, and we talked about Francisco pulling off. Really disappointing, of course. He could have potentially run for the race win, but he capped things off nicely. Again, Saturday qualifies on pole, wins the pre-final, but then pulls off early. Sunday, same thing. Qualifies on pole. Last lap, I believe, he went back to the top. He wasn't there. A good final lap. He goes P1. Wins the pre-final, and David ends up winning the main event as well.
Yeah, and this was the only race where the weather was a factor. We had a light sprinkle kind of fall down on the racetrack, and it kind of put the drivers to almost a rain line for maybe 1 to 2 laps.
Agreed.
But other than that, they continued to keep racing. The wetness went away. The humidity, I think, dried up the racetrack as well, really quick as well. We did see a couple of drivers kind of get sideways or spin off due to kind of the wetness, maybe just not used to driving on, the dry tires on a semi-damp racetrack. Yeah. But it created a lot of interesting scenarios and a lot of shuffling for position with a lot of drivers that were up at the lead group. So you weren't quite sure who was going to be able to come out of this. But one story we're watching was Santiago Orioli coming from the tail of the field after an engine change and driving his way up through the field. By the time they got to the last lap, he got himself into the second spot behind Francisco, was able to get by him for the lead and take the checkered flag for what was the provisional victory. Unfortunately, through the tech situation, was unable to pass engine tech and thus had the victory taken away. So a bit of redemption for Orly or Francisco, as he was able to be named the winner for Sunday main event.
Yeah, a couple of penalties all told, David, rolling out there. So Francisco gets the win. Jake Manalillo ends up in second. Johnson third. Nagel fourth. And Perriman moving up to fifth. So a bunch of drivers moving forward, obviously with Orioli, but there was more than just that DQ, correct?
Yeah, I didn't really want to get into all the scenarios. So the big ones were Orioli with the technical disqualification, but also Zane Burgess, who I believe crossed the line in, I think, the third position, was disqualified from the race for driving down on a competitor. So okay. I'm assuming a type of blocking or aggressive maneuver towards another driver. So a strange scenario again in this race. And we talked about it earlier, a lot of disqualifications for on-track driving put in by Superkarts USA. And had this be the old SCUSA Pro Tour where a DQ was not removable, this could have been a championship implementing scenario with right. Burgess getting essentially 0 points for the main event.
Hard charger was Zev Godshock. The Bennett driver up 11 spots, started 21st, gets himself into the top 10. And in the end of it, in the championship, Zane Burgess comes away with the title. Win Godshock in second, 285 points. So it was a decisive championship for Burgess, getting the win there. And against Santiago Orioli coming home third spot in the overall points standings. We're into a break now, folks. Our final break in the action here. We come back. We'll wrap things up. We'll have the Constructors Championship for you. We'll have a look at the EKN Live race calendar to see where we'll be through the month of August. And from there, we'll cap off the show. All over the karting world, everyone knows OTK is the gold standard for quality and performance. In the U.S., OTK USA is the source for all things OTK. From the legendary Tony Kart brand to the race-winning Cosmic and Esprit chassis, and now the new Red Speed and EOS brands, OTK quality is second to none. All 5 brands are winning races and championships across the country in national programs like the Ruck Cup USA Florida Winter Tour and the Challenge of the Americas, the SCUSA Pro Tour and Winter Series, and the Pro Kart Challenge, the United States Pro Kart Series, and the WKA Manufacturers Cup. And OTK products are also front and center on the podium of club and regional races from coast to coast. To learn more about a specific product line, you can find the OTK USA dealer near you, whether it's Tony Kart, Cosmic, Esprit, Red Speed, or EOS. Visit www.otkusa.com. Specific chassis territories are still available, so kart shops interested in adding a winning component to their product lineups can contact OTK USA directly. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready for the 2022 season with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. The CRG KT5 is our new chassis for tag and shifter racing, and it's been designed specifically for the US market. The KT5 features 30mm construction with a 32mm front loop to increase front grip. CRG's new VEN 13 brake system is cutting-edge technology with a master cylinder that allows for pressure regulation within the system. Drivers can customize brake pressure to their own requirements to improve feel and to avoid brake lockup. The kart is finished with new KG 507, 508 bodywork that has refined aerodynamics and reduced weight. For cadet drivers, the 2022 CRG Black Mirror is already logging positive results to start the new season. This chassis will be making big waves in 2022. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. With 4-cycle racing enjoying consistent growth in North America, CRG's FS4 chassis is the ideal choice for racers in Briggs & Stratton competition. From pure racing to karting entertainment, many tracks, both indoor and outdoor, have made the switch to the CRG Centurion rental kart line. 5 different models for both gas-powered or electric engines can fit any track's needs for a new rental kart fleet. CRG Nordam has a full inventory of rental karts available for new and existing facilities. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. Back at it with our final segment of this edition of the EKN Debrief, episode number 133. Let's cap off our review of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Summer Nationals, the final round of this year's Pro Tour. Let's wrap things up, David, as we always do. You know, you wait for the end of the weekend. You're looking for a clean weekend. Only one red flag on the weekend. The driver was one of the senior drivers, I believe, went over, was able to get right up onto the barrier, eventually walked away. But again, the red flag came out for a specific reason.
Yeah, he didn't get up right away. I think that was the issue. It was a hard kind of flip over at the Monza corner to where, you know, maybe he had the wind kind of knocked out of him or something. But I know he scraped up a knee or something. But
that's Brett Rivera, right?
Brett Rivera, yeah. But he wasn't able to get up right away. So that was kind of the cause for the
when our camera got over there, he was already sitting up on top of the barrier. So
correct. Yeah, it was a late. Yeah, once the red flag did come out, he started getting up and kind of back to normal. So.
Good stuff. Good stuff. One thing we talked about with a lot of the drivers in the pit area was with the change of kind of the rubber compound a little bit. There was a lot of grip this weekend.
Yeah, that's what the story we've kind of been following with the new MG tires and now these new Iveco tires as well. And then when you get 50 shifter carts on the racetrack, that certainly adds to the amount of grip getting laid down. I think really the only one spot I did see walking around the racetrack was in the Monza corner. That's where the only place I saw, that rubber buildup that we see in Europe all the time. We don't quite see here as much anymore. A few times, I think, during the Summer Nationals when it first started coming to Newcastle. But in the Monza area, there is some of that Rhino sealer being put down, and that's where it all gathered up, as it was at least an inch tall in a couple spots there on that Rhino sealer.
And with the end of the Summer Nationals, this year's Pro Tour, the 15th edition of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour is done. All started back in 2010. And again, over the 30 years I've been doing this, you hear me talk about it a lot through a number of our podcasts and our shows. The stability that we have in the sport right now, the first number of seasons that I was down in the U.S. doing what I've been doing, covering the races, announcing events, there was always a number of different organizations. Let's put it that way. WKA, SCUSA, STARS, CKI, Superkarts USA, part of the faction of teams that have provided David some stability, right? The Pro Tour has been going for 15 years. So it's amazing that they've got their 15th year in. I'm sure they're looking forward to 16 and beyond. But again, the stability that they bring, that series like the USPKS bring, that have been around a long time, I think that's just huge for the sport.
Yeah, we already know where we're going to be, or we know the dates for next year. So we know we're going to have 3 rounds for the Pro Tour, 2 Winter Series events. So again, kind of a 5-event program for 2025, including what will be the Super Nationals 28 next year. But first, we have the Super Nationals of 27 coming up in November. So that's kind of the focus. I know they have the Superkarts USA California Pro Kart Challenge that's going to be coming up in August, heading to the K1 circuit. So its debut event at that new facility, hosting its first ever competitive 2-cycle karting event, because they have done some electric racing and rental kart racing there already. So it's kind of a turning point for the organization, getting the first 15 years into its book. But I think there's a lot for change and some new things coming in the future, probably for Superkarts USA.
Could be interesting. David, let's have a look at the Constructors' Championship. 9 different brands splitting the 14 wins.
Yeah, a lot of chassis winning over the weekend, but Cosmic was the big winner overall with 4 victories, all under the Rawlson Performance Group tent, 2 by Turner Brown himself. Norberg, the legendary champion, with 1, and Daniel Ramirez and Micro Swift. Kart Republic picking up 2 victories, Caleb Gaffera being one of those. Marinello taking the sweep in the Master Shifter category with Sketchy Barnes and Joe Ruck. Factory Kart picking up the victory, the big one by Billy Musgrave, with Tony Kart CS55, that Carlos Sanz kart by OTK. Parolin, Bennick, and Nitro Kart all picking up 1 win.
All right, let's wrap up this edition of the show with our EKN Trackside Live race calendar, presented today by Stilo USA. As a world leader in personal racing safety products, Simpson Performance Products is now the official North American distributor for Stilo helmets. In addition to their popular auto racing helmets, Stilo is excited to have made their move into karting. Stilo has 2 helmets designed and manufactured specifically for karting: the ST5 CMR for kids and the ST5 Kart Snell K adult karting helmet. They have also introduced the ST5 CMR Carbon, one of the lightest helmets on the market. For more information, check them out at stilohelmets.com or by following them on social media at Stilo USA. So this is the EKN Trackside Live race calendar. We'll wrap things up, David. A couple of events that I will not be trackside with. I have conflicts for both of these events. You'll be at the USPKS Ohio Grand Prix at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati in a couple of weeks, that August 9th to the 11th event. And then trackside at the end of August, July 23rd to the 25th, the Race Rotax U.S. Trophy Final at Newcastle Motorsports Park in Newcastle, Indiana. A couple of events for you, little gap between them nicely, but trackside at both Cincinnati and Newcastle in August.
Yeah, August 23rd, 25th. You said July. So yeah, we're
Okay.
still in July. It's okay.
Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah. So essentially next weekend back to Motorsports Country Club. So I'll be doubling up my trip to that state down south with the Great Bailiff run facility down there. Again, the second time the United States Pro Kart Series will be visiting this premier facility in Ohio. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be right back down to Newcastle Motorsports Park for the next edition of the Race Rotax US Trophy Final. We've been to the last couple of those, Rob, and it's exciting to be able to crown winners and ticket winners to go to the Rotax Grand Finals, the probably premier world event that anybody could ever go to. It's exciting. You get a little country pride rooting for the drivers and team members that represent your country, but also to see a lot of the best in the world competing at the Rotax Grand Finals.
Yeah, and the last two races at Newcastle Motorsports Park, David, obviously have grown, right? From the first year to the second year, big growth. I expect to see more growth this year. A lot more racers around the country are on the Rotax program once again. So we're going to see a lot of guys coming over to do that event at Newcastle. Of course, fantastic facility. And again, expecting to have a big weekend there as well. That's where David's going to be in August. We'll talk about September when we get back into some more of our shows here. But that wraps things up for this edition of the EKN Debrief, episode number 133. Again, big thank you to the sponsor of the debrief here today, the Skip Barber Racing School. If you're a young driver looking to move your way up to the USF Pro Championships, maybe into USF Juniors, the Skip Barber Racing School, the perfect place to get your 3-day school, get some lapping days in, and even run the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. That wraps things up, as I said, for this edition of the show. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. On behalf of David Cole, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.